fever. Be part of the fun. You're the winner at every game. That's where the excitement begins. So catch Indian fever. Be a believer with the Cleveland Indians.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the November 6th, 2018 edition of the Lake County Sentinel Podcast. I'm Tim Shirer, and tonight we're going to talk about the rumors that the Indians are getting ready to trade Corey Kluber and Carlos Carrasco to the Yankees. I think we'll go into this a little bit, and we'll see what, if there's anything to this or why this might happen. There's a lot of blame to go around why the why would the Indians trade these two guys? Why, what are the reasons for having to get rid of good players? We're going to look into that a little bit tonight. And maybe, some of the people that don't understand why this has to happen, maybe they'll understand. Or, maybe we won't change anybody's mind. Because usually the people that don't understand why this is happening or why this does happen with the Indians is because they don't want to understand. They're caught in their own ideas, and that's it. They don't want to worry about understanding why the Indians have to sometimes shed payroll. The Indians are a small market team. Like it or not, the Indians are a small market team, okay? Baseball is not like football salary-wise. Baseball is not like basketball salary-wise. So when it comes to salaries, you cannot compare the Cleveland Indians with the Cleveland Browns or the Cavaliers. You just can't do it. You can't do it. You can try. You can say, well, Dan Gilbert is small market and he overspent. Well, there's a reason that Dan Gilbert could overspend. And it's not because Dan Gilbert has more money. So, but do I really think that this is going to happen? Well, I'm unsure at this point. But I'll tell you what, if I hear someone else report it other than John Heyman, then maybe I'll believe it. I don't believe much John Heyman says because he is wrong 90% of the time. This guy, he's wrong. And he's always coming up with a rumor that involves the Yankees or the Mets. That's it. This guy, Yankees or the Mets. That's what he worries about, and he always seems to be worried about making them better. Like that's his job, to help make the Yankees or the Mets better. So I don't know if I take a lot of what John Heyman says, and believe it. Let's hope that, if something happens, if they trade one of these guys, I do not think they're trading both. That would be insane if they traded both. And just because they talked to the Yankees, just because there was a meeting, doesn't really mean anything. The Yankees can talk to everybody. The Yankees can talk to everybody about making a trade because they have the assets. They have the money to make trades because they have a huge revenue stream. Okay? The Yankees have a huge revenue stream, which other teams don't have. If the Indians had the revenue that the Yankees had, they wouldn't have to trade. They wouldn't have to trade guys. But they don't. The Yankees have the Yes Network. And that's huge. The Boston Red Sox have Nesson. So I think, people need to understand that. If the Indians had a network like that, then, they would be able to have the top payroll in baseball. But they don't. The Yankees have they get huge amounts of money from the Yes Network. Okay? And how about this one? How about this right here? The New York Yankees, okay, have a $1.5 billion TV deal with the Yes Network. $1.5 billion. That's $3 billion a year. Okay? That's a lot of money. That's $3 billion a year in revenue. I don't know what the Indians are getting from Fox Sports Ohio, but it sure isn't $3 billion a year. I mean, look at the size of the market. That's what it goes by, people. I wish people would just open their minds and understand that the amount of money that a team gets goes by the amount of viewers. The amount of viewers in New York is 5 or 6 times what it is in the Northeast Ohio area. So they get a lot more money. So they can spend huge amounts of payroll. The funny thing is, they don't spend as much on payroll percentage-wise as the Indians do. Neither do the Red Sox. I mean, they got $3 billion. They get $3 billion a year from Yes Network. And they don't spend $3 billion in payroll, do they? No, they don't. But the Indians, I'll bet, just spend quite a bit of the revenue they get from Fox Sports Ohio. I mean, I just don't understand why people don't get this. Why people want to just call the Dolans cheap. You know what I mean? It's look, it makes you kind of look not that smart. That you just don't want to even open your minds to what the real truth is. What the real truth is, and why they don't spend as much as the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Los Angeles Dodgers, who have a huge deal with Fox Sports West, or the Anaheim Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim have a huge deal with Fox Sports. Huge. A lot more money than the Indians. A lot more money than the Indians get from their TV deal. But, people just want to say, oh, the Dolans are cheap. The cheap Dolans, because that's easy. That's an easy answer. Call the Dolans cheap, and you really don't have to think about it then. You can just say, the Dolans are cheap. You don't really have to think about the reasons. Plus, the attendance is not great here. The Indians' attendance was 21st this year. Okay? 21st out of 30 teams. That does matter in revenue. That's not an excuse. I heard someone say today, oh, they'll use that as an excuse. No, that's not an excuse. That's a real thing. Okay? That's a real thing. Yeah, the Milwaukee Brewers will probably spend more money this winter than the Cleveland Indians, but the Milwaukee Brewers also drew 11,000 more fans per game than the Cleveland Indians this year. How about this? How sad is this? What does this say about Indians fans in Cleveland? That the Indians drew more fans on the road than they drew at home. That's horrible. That's horrible. Almost every other team in baseball drew more at home than they did on the road, except the Cleveland Indians. The Indians averaged 24,083 fans at home and averaged 26,088 on the road. 2,005 fans more per road game than they had at home. What does that say for Cleveland fans? I want to know. How can you justify yourselves? The Indians drew better on the road than they drew at home. Whose fault is this? What it tells me is other teams' fans are coming to see the games. Why aren't you? Other teams go to see the games. I mean, Toronto Blue Jays are terrible. They were 13th in attendance. Seattle hasn't made the playoffs since 2001. They drew 4,000 more a game than the Indians. All right? San Diego Padres have never been good. I mean, the Padres have not been good in 20 years, really. What do? They drew 2,000 more fans a game than the Indians. Okay? Texas Rangers, last place, drew more than the Indians. Minnesota Twins, who finished behind the Indians in the standings, drew more than the Indians. Okay? Yeah. Washington Nationals, who have been a complete disappointment, at least by Cleveland fan standards. Because if you don't win the World Series, you're a disappointment. So the Washington Nationals are a huge disappointment. But they drew 7,000 fans per game more than the Indians this year. But this is the Dolan's fault? You're going to blame the Dolans for this? How is that possible? You really can't blame the Dolans. Blame yourselves for not showing up. How about that? How about blaming yourselves for not showing up for games? If you're going to complain about payroll, come to games. If not, don't come to games. It's kind of like voting. If you're going to vote, then you can complain. But if you're not going to vote, don't complain. So with the Cleveland Indians, if you're not going to go to games, don't complain about them not spending money. I think it's that simple. Don't complain about them not spending money if you don't come to games. The Indians need fans to show up because they don't get the television revenue that teams like the Red Sox and Yankees get. So if you're not going to show up to games, you are hurting the team's payroll. It's not an excuse. It's the truth. And you're not going to get an owner that's going to come in here and overspend if you people aren't showing up. Who's going to buy this team and say, yeah, we're going to overspend every year. We're going to lose money because, we just want to. We just want to. We know the fans aren't going to show up. We're just going to buy the team and lose money every year. There's not going to be an owner that comes in here. You people have probably made it hard for the Dolans to sell the team because of the attendance, because you don't show up. You have to take as much responsibility for this as the Dolans because you don't show up. They put a really good team on the field the last 3 years, and you still finished 21st in attendance. This is on Cleveland fans. This is on Cleveland fans. This isn't on anybody else but the fans. Show up for games. And then they have the revenue. They know what's coming. They know that attendance is going to drop next year, so they're going to have to get rid of some payroll. They're going to have to get rid of some payroll because attendance is going to drop because they lost in the first round. That's not the fans' fault. But they do know how the fans are in Cleveland. The fans in Cleveland are very fickle when it comes to the Indians. Attendance didn't even go up that much after they got to the World Series and lost in the 7th game. So this is all on the fans here. You can blame the Dolans all you want, but it's really not the Dolans' fault. The Dolans have done really well with this team in a small market. And okay, you don't like the small market excuse? Well, the small market excuse is not an excuse. It's fact. Watch MLB Network sometime. They'll tell you. They talk about it in there all the time. What a great job the Dolans have done in a small market where the fans don't show up. Maybe if you showed up, that would add some revenue, and they wouldn't have to try to trade Kluber or Carlos Carrasco. They could maybe hold on to those guys until their contracts end. But if you don't show up, if you're 21st in attendance out of 30 teams, there's not revenue there. They need more revenue. They've proven themselves. They have built a good team, a good organization, but the fans don't show up. So what happens in the end? They're going to have to get rid of players. That's just how it is. I know you don't like it. You don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear that it's not the Dolan's fault. It's not the Dolan's fault. If the fans would show up and not be 21st out of 30 in attendance and draw more on the road than they do at home, then there might be a chance to hold on to players. I don't want to talk about the Indians the entire show, but I felt that it needed to be said. It needed to be explained. People don't understand or don't want to understand that it is not the Dolan's fault. Look, I don't know the Dolans. I'm not friends with the Dolans. There's no reason for me to, stick up for the Dolans, except I see common sense. It's common sense economics. You're not going to spend money you don't have. And don't say, oh, they should sell the team. No, they don't have to sell the team. They own the team. And they're doing a pretty good job with the team. So they don't have to sell the team. Don't say sell the team. How about fans show up and make that extra revenue, and then they can keep the players? Okay? But until that happens, we're going to go through the same cycle every time. You're going to blame the Dolans. The Dolans are going to point out that attendance is low. And that's what we're going to have over and over again. They have put their best foot forward and spent money. They have put their best foot forward and built a minor league system that's good. I don't know what more they can do. They have the best manager in baseball. Okay? I don't know what more they can do. I don't know what more they can do for you people to be satisfied. I just don't know. But now let's move on. The Cavs game last night. That was rough. That was rough to watch. I thought they had it won. I think pretty much everybody thought they had it won. Austin Carr was pretty confident. Although Austin Carr was confident, but he kept saying there's time left. There's time left. Teddy Osmond turning the ball over. You know what? He's young. I can handle that. That's fine. It happens to young teams, young players. But the Kyle Korver turnover, that one bothers me because Korver is a veteran who you would think would be able to take care of the ball at that point of the game. But he wasn't able to. And he turned it over, and Orlando, they made the last second shot and they won the game, and it was a rough loss. So, I see signs of progress. Like they outscored the Hawks 32-12 in the third quarter, which was great. The third quarter has been a huge problem this year. And the fact that they outscored them, they outscored Orlando. They played Orlando last night. I don't know, I keep thinking they played the Hawks, but they played Orlando. The fact they outscored Orlando 32-12 last night in the third quarter, to me, is a huge, huge thing. Because third quarter for the last, 3 years, 4 years, has been a problem. Even when LeBron was here and Ty Lue was the coach, it was a problem. So the good thing is that they played a good third quarter. So that's a positive. They nearly won the game. Yeah, I know in Cleveland sports, nearly winning the game is not good anymore. It's not good enough. You got to get wins. And so hopefully things will get better. It's not an easy road ahead. They play Oklahoma City tomorrow night. That is not going to be an easy game. They'll probably lose that one. But Larry Drew got a contract, and he is the head coach, not interim anymore. He's the head coach. There's incentives to get his contract extended for next season, depending on how this season goes. So that's a good thing for him. He really deserves it, Larry Drew. I mean, he 3 years in Atlanta, 3 playoff appearances. Then he went to Milwaukee and inherited a horrible team in Milwaukee, and only lasted 1 season there, and that was the Jason Kidd came in and took the job, and that was kind of nice that it didn't work out for Milwaukee, and Jason Kidd eventually got fired. But I like Larry Drew. I like what I've seen from him, and I think things will turn around for the Cavs. It's going to take a while, though. This is not going to be an easy thing. They're not going to be as good as I thought they were going to be this year. I'm wrong. I'll admit it. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong. But I think that last night definitely was a tough loss, tough game to watch. Because man, I thought they had that game won, well, we know what happened in the end. 102-100, Orlando. So, but better things to come for the Cavs. And let's finish the show with just a few minutes tonight of politics. There's not really a lot. The polls close in just about 7.5 minutes in Ohio. 7 minutes. Polls will close. And Ohio voters will have made their decisions. And we're going to find out. I mean, we are going to have a new governor by the end of the night, no matter what. We could have a new senator. I don't know. Polls say that we probably won't. Lake County could have a new congresswoman. A lot of things up in the air. We got issue 1. People, in Ohio. Issue 3, the Lakeland Community College levy, which I really hope passes, because Lakeland Community College is a really important place, especially for kids that can't afford to go to a 4-year school right away. And I really hope that passes. We'll find that out. That one we should find out relatively early. The levies you usually find out relatively early, because the trends that are shown early usually stay the same with levies. So like issue 1, issue 3, like I know in Wickliffe here, my hometown here, we have fire and police levy that's on the ballot, and that'll be interesting to see whether that one passes or not. So it's going to be very interesting to see, how this night goes. In other states, I mean, I don't think, there's been a lot of talk. I'll admit it. I think CNN and MSNBC and NBC, I think they've been pushing this Beto O'Rourke guy in Texas, and I don't think he's going to win. I don't think he has a chance in hell of defeating Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is a bad man. Ted Cruz is an awful guy, but for some reason, I think that this Beto O'Rourke is not going to beat him. I just don't think he has a chance to beat him. Not in Texas. Maybe in another state could have had a chance, but not in Texas. So, Arizona, is going to have a new senator. It's going to be a woman, because there's 2 women running. It'll be the first time Arizona's ever had a woman senator, which is something for their state. That's a close race. Claire McCaskill in Missouri is in a close race. She's the incumbent. She replaced her husband when he died. She took his seat, and then she's been elected, I think, twice, maybe. I don't know exactly. I'm not sure of that, but she's been reelected a couple times, but she's been in a tight race this time. There's going to be a new senator in Florida, maybe. Bill Nelson is not looking good down there for the Democrats. The current governor, Rick Scott, is challenging him, and the polls favor Scott at this point. Our Senate race, it looks good for Sherrod Brown, but you never know. And then you got the governor race here, Richard Cordray and Mike DeWine. Excuse me. That's close too. That's very close. I mean, I had seen a lot of polls in the last few weeks that had Cordray winning, but you never know. There were a lot of polls that had Hillary Clinton winning in 2016, and what happened? We know what happened in 2016. So any person who is a Democrat that sits there and says they're confident tonight, you're better than me, because I'm not confident. I'm just taking a wait and see attitude tonight, and we'll see what happens. And let's hope that it goes the right way tonight. I think it was, for me personally, it was very tough to watch in 2016. I know I couldn't even watch it. I remember, I don't know, probably like 8:30. I knew it was going bad. And I remember I went over to Dollar General, just to go over to Dollar General. Not even really to get anything. I bought something, I can't remember what, but not even really to buy anything. Just to stop and get away from the election coverage, because it wasn't going well. And I'll admit that. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say, anything different. I'm an honest person. I tell the truth. A lot of people don't like that I tell the truth, but I tell the truth. And I was disgusted by what happened in 2016. So I'm hoping it gets fixed today. I think what we're gonna do maybe next time, though, is I think maybe once a week we'll add a new part of the podcast. We'll add something about fantasy sports to the podcast. We got the election. We have the politics. We talk about, the sports teams in the area. But I've had a suggestion from a listener, and he says, you need to talk about the fantasy league on the podcast. And I think we will. I think we'll have a segment every night about fantasy sports. I'm in, I don't know how many leagues currently right now, including basketball, hockey, and college football and NFL. I am in that teams that are going right now. I have 10 teams going, and that doesn't count my 3 pick'em teams. So I think we will add that. I think that's a good idea. And I thank the listener for making that suggestion. But until next time, until tomorrow, I hope everybody takes care of themselves. And God willing, we'll talk again tomorrow night. Everybody have a good night.